Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining us for the first Toolbox training of May. For those that don't know, Toolbox trainings are professional free trainings to local government staff and others in the Compass Blueprint suite of services. Toolbox training provides a range of practical skills and knowledge for local planners, including training in the use of computer-based tools and education in practical approaches to timely planning issues. My name is Lyle Janicek, and I'm joined here today by Jean Holm and Anthony Lyons of the City of Los Angeles. We're very excited to talk to you about how data science research can serve the region. SCAG will also be hosting another Toolbox training next Monday that focuses on the California Healthy Places Index tool. At the end of this presentation, we'll provide a link that will allow you to register for that webinar. We'll also be sending out a link to a recording of this training, as well as the presentation in case you'd like to get back and review this information. So without further ado, we'll get started. Today's agenda will cover what data science is and how do planners use it. Jean Holm will introduce us to the Data Science Federation. We'll have a student presentation on the Los Angeles Zoo project. Anthony Lyons will introduce the call for projects for the 2020-2021 Data Science Federation, and we'll wrap up with a Q&A session. So let's get started. What is data science? While many of you may be familiar with data science, I wanted to give a brief description for those that aren't. Essentially, data science is the study of data. It involves developing methods of recording, storing, and analyzing data to effectively extract useful information. The goal of data science is to gain insights and knowledge from any type of data, both structured and unstructured. So the question is why and how do we use it in planning? Now more than ever, planners are relying on data to help determine policies and decision-making. For example, the 2020 Regional Transportation Plan, or Connect SoCal, utilized modeled land use data, environmental, and transportation data to help determine policy outcomes for the plan. Another example is Boston's utilization of CityScore. The city developed a program that utilized data-driven management that helped identify how the government was performing relative to its 24 key area goals. These goals ranged from emergency calls to collecting garbage. Boston utilized sensors that automatically recorded much of the data and activity. The system made challenges more apparent and helped ensure the city was allocating resources where they would have the greatest impact on its citizens. Similarly, the City of Los Angeles has created the Data Science Federation to provide data-related resources for city staff and the community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jean Holmes, the Chief Data Officer of the City of Los Angeles. Jean works at the cross-section of civic innovation, open data, and education. She's the Deputy CIO and Mayor's Senior Tech Advisor at the City of Los Angeles, working on issues ranging from homelessness to digital equity, technology innovation, data and analytics, and public-private partnerships. She is a fellow of the United Nations International Academy of Astronautics and distinguished instructors at UCLA. She leads several startups on education and social justice and has more than 130 publications on information systems, knowledge management, and innovation. Thank you, Jean, for being here today.
Sure, thank you so much, Lyle, and just a big welcome to everybody. Just a big welcome to everybody, and hoping everybody is safer at home in Southern California. Today I wanted to share with you some of the work that we're doing at the City of Los Angeles with our Data Science Federation, and a really exciting opportunity with the Southern California Association of Governments to expand this. We did a pilot expansion last year and several cities participated in this, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody had the ability to do this. So the City of Los Angeles Data Science team and Federation really started in 2016. The goal here was to solve a few different challenges that were happening around Los Angeles. One of those was that students in a variety of data science programs were finding that it was really difficult to be able to do work for their community. They wanted to have a big difference, and they also wanted to be able to work on something real. And that has been a challenge for anybody who's worked in the classroom before. In addition, we wanted to be able to, so we wanted to give kids a chance to really work on real data science problems. We also have a hiring issue at the City of Los Angeles, as I'm sure many of you do, where we have an older workforce, and we wanted to attract young people into city service and really get some fresh ideas. And then thirdly, professors were interested in really working with cutting edge problems and new data. So we founded the Data Science Federation, which really solved these three different challenges, and most importantly, helped our city departments to come up with good ideas that would be better informed by data, but maybe they didn't have the workforce inside the city. So this is a free service. University professors and students participate for class credit or internship opportunities, or just to be able to have a chance to work on a real world problem. And then city departments come up with an opportunity for ways that they would like, if they had more support, to be able to use data that would better inform decisions they have to make. And we'll talk about a few of those kinds of projects. So in the city of Los Angeles, we have 4 different groups that kind of work on data in a collaborative way. We have a citywide data and predictive analytics group that's in our information technology agency, and they work as a small team of data scientists on citywide projects. The mayor's data team augments that work and being able to focus in on a specific project or another. Both groups provide training to city personnel. The Data Science Federation is a collection of 18 universities that partner with the city departments. The Data Angels program is for professionals who want to volunteer with the city. So these are people who might be coders or computer scientists or data scientists or storytellers, but they want to work together with the city around a specific data challenge. And then our Summer Data Academy brings in students over the summer and internship opportunities this summer, obviously doing that virtually, to be able to work on city problems. So the next slide shows you these sort of 3 different areas in our community. So one is the cities and governments. And again, we focus a lot on getting projects solicited out of city departments, elected officials, the county government, and regional groups too. Our educational partners are universities and colleges. We also have Girls to Code, so it reaches down to the high school level. Sometimes we have groups that are really more on a boot camp. So some of the programs and extension programs like at UCLA or USC or Cal State LA that may not be formal 2 or 4 year programs, but they have people coming in to do data science challenges. And then we have scientists and hackers from the community, groups like Hack for LA and others that come in and work on a specific project. The next slide just shows you some of those partners. So we have reached out to a lot of universities in the community, Art Center School of Design, Caltech, USC, UCLA, but also our city colleges. So LA Trade Tech is one of our founding members. Cal State LA is a very active member. And we've recently, and Occidental College. So we do liberal arts colleges like the Claremont colleges, as well as sort of heavy technical universities in addition, both undergraduate and graduate, and we do now reach the high school level. We've just reached out to our first out-of-state college, which is Arizona State University. They've been working with us on some of the work around the Sustainable Development Goals. And over the few years of the program, we've had 54 different partners, over 300 students, and over 40 projects. Again, this is a service that's free of cost to cities and really brings in some interesting innovations and new ideas and opportunities. The next slide talks a little bit about kind of how universities and colleges participate. So we reach out to them on a periodic basis, both sort of in a focused way, but also a little bit of a word of mouth. They express interest. Sometimes those are through a specific event like a hackathon or a data day that they've had at universities, or more often it tends to be in coordination with a specific class. We create a data sharing agreement once for the entire city. We have templates of that. Each city we know will have slight variations on that, but we find that if you take the time up front to have a data sharing agreement with each university, then all the projects can fall under that same data sharing agreement, and it's much easier to stand up small, frequent projects. We also find that it's really helpful to circulate job postings out to that group of the Data Science Federation university partners. We get lots of great students applying for those jobs, and we've been very successful on collaborating on grants and awards. We have gotten over $3.5 million in grants to our university partners through this program. These include the Hilton Foundation, which funds an ongoing program with Occidental College and UCLA and USC and several other universities, Arizona State University, around our work on data analytics and the Sustainable Development Goals. We also have a large grant that goes to Cal State LA around the Toyota Mobility Foundation and looking at machine learning and computer vision and pedestrian safety. And then we just recently got a $2 million grant from NASA related to air quality. So this is something that we've been working with the South Coast Air Quality Management District and SCAG as well. We've just launched this project that will combine satellite data and our smart city Internet of Things data from our ground sensors to be able to understand and predict the effects of our city interventions and regional interventions and what improves or denigrates air quality. So we're really excited about these opportunities to take really early concept work and then mature it in a way that really brings in funds to our universities. Next slide. And city departments. I mean, some of that money also goes to the city to build some of the infrastructure capacity. So these Data Science Federation projects, what do they look like? Well, we kind of scope them with you. So we'll put out the call for proposals, which Anthony will talk about shortly today. And then we'll work with folks for the next month or so as we try to scope these into something that can be accomplished in a short period of time by a group of students. So they generally are accomplished in less than a year, but some extend beyond that. Our sustainable development work has been going on for 2.5 years now. It's a long-term project. It doesn't involve sensitive data, or at least very sensitive data. We do have a data sharing agreement in place, but we want to make sure that that these are students working on it and they are able to kind of work with the data. So we generally encourage cities to think, or counties to think differently about the kind of data that they're going to be sharing. But it doesn't mean that it's public data. The intent here isn't to necessarily publish any of this data as public. It can sometimes graduate into a larger project. And so these are either proposals, some of the universities do a lot of proposals with us as well, or sometimes a student who's working on a master's or PhD project may want to come and actually work at your city, generally at no cost because they need to get that work done for academic credit. And so they'll focus in on homelessness or environmental issues or equity around broadband or whatever the topic is. And so the project team is really a city and an agency project manager, who's somebody at the city who kind of is available to answer questions and make sure the project is meeting the needs that they want it to. And then a university team. And then we provide a coach, which on our side from the City of Los Angeles, who helps to make sure that we hit certain milestones to make that project successful. And then normally we get the recommendations for projects from city departments, but sometimes the universities come forward with an idea. Certainly that's happening now around COVID-19 issues where people are really interested at the universities in trying to propose applying a new technology or a new technique. And the next slide, Lyle. So this is where we sort of have been the last couple of years. We expanded in 2018 from our initial concept, which has been pretty successful for us. Again, we're able to do this really very inexpensively inside the city of LA, and our universities have just been spectacular in stepping up and really wanting students to get access to real projects and resume building activities. We've brought some more cities on and we staffed up our citywide data analytics team. And then now we're really expanding this model for more local governments to share and really thinking about these issues around smart cities and smart city technologies. Southern California is this fascinating region where we rely on each other as governments much more than I think in other areas where there might be one city that dominates and then, or there's just a lot of rural dispersion. But here, we all work together as siblings within the Southern California area. And so some of these projects are ones that, several cities could work on together. And so one of the things is in the call for proposals, we have a few different general topics that people have been interested in around COVID. We did a call for ideas earlier and to our university partners. And so you'll see some opportunities if you're interested in collaborating around something related to COVID, but not quite sure what, we have some options for that. And so I think the next thing is really to show you an example of a data science project. So this is one, Anthony, do you want to take this away and then set this up?
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for participating in this, and thank you Lyle and the SCAG team for inviting us to partner with you on this effort. The zoo came to us with a number of problems, and we're going to highlight just one particular one today. They had an issue with understanding the schools that the schools that come to the zoo and how frequently they come. So this particular project is research on school participation. And Lyle, you can go on and start it now.
Hello everyone, my name is Yang Zong. I am a PhD student from Claremont Graduate University, CGU. Today I'm going to present the data analysis regarding the LA Zoo visits by schools. This analysis was done at the end of last year, 2019. So this is the little agenda I'll be going through. I'll start it from the objectives. So first, we want to look at the school visit data for the last 10 years. This data was provided by our client. We want to find out the patterns and trends from this 10 years history. What are the important factors which influence the school visits? Then another important question asked by the client is which schools are not visiting the zoo? So there are two different types. The schools that never came and the schools that came before but stopped visiting in recent years. So we want to find out these schools and their characteristics. So these are the major questions we want to answer in this study. So this is the overall trend for the 10 years history, school visits. On the right side, there are two line charts. The top one shows the number of the school visited for each years, and the bottom one is how many visitors. Two very similar trends, basically showing the 2009 to 2010, which was the first year this data was gathered. It's actually the best year. Then it kept declining for 3 years to the bottom year, which is 2012 to 13. Then recovered a little bit to 2015 to 16. Then it has been declining again to today. So on the visitor composition, the vertical bar chart at the bottom left shows the 5 types of school represented by different colors in each years. As we can observe, the elementary schools, which is in blue, was the major contributor. In fact, it accounts for 80% of the total visits. High schools and middle schools are the second and the third. The bottom right line chart shows the number of school visits throughout the 10 years for the top 3 school types. As we observe, the high school and middle schools are relatively consistent, even with a slight increase. The elementary schools trend is very similar to the overall trend that we see from the previous page, which means most of the influence to the school visits are from elementary school for sure. We also did geocodings to all the schools' addresses so that we can kind of discover their geographic pattern. The line chart on the right shows the average distance to the zoo from the elementary, middle, and high schools can visit in the 10 years. So in general, middle and high schools are located a little further than elementary. Especially in recent years, The further middle and high schools visits are increased, and the elementary schools haven't been changed too much. Regarding the cities, the bar chart on the left shows the schools from the city of LA contributed about 30% of the total visits. So the two bar chart on the right shows the top 10 cities except the city of LA. So where the visiting schools located at 10 years ago and compared with the recent year 2018 and 19. So we can see there are a few cities appeared in both lists, meaning maybe the zoo has done good marketing in these areas. Then we look at income. The map shows the variation of the median annual household income for the LA County. The more deeper green means the higher income. We categorize the area with 5 tiers from the lowest, lower than 50K, all the way to more than 180K. In the table on the left, the column total means the number of the school located in that tier area, and the column visited means how many of them has visited the zoo in the past 10 years. As we observe from the table, the more income means less visited percentage. We can see the ratio drops as the income increase. In the area with lower 50K income, 71% of the schools has visited at least once. But on the other side, the 81 schools located in the area with over 180K dollar annual income, only 37 of them has done that. So the ratio is only 45%. And we also analyzed one of the other variables, park need level as well. So it's basically a score ranges from 0 to 5. On the map, the deeper red means the higher score, and higher score means the area needs parks very much. In the summarized table, the school located in high park need level area shows higher visited percentage, which makes sense. Our client also mentioned the Title I status of the school might have some impact. Title I means the school has a certain percentage of students from low-income family, so the school can receive extra federal funding. We look at this. There are 1,780 schools out of the 3,147 in LA County are Title I, which is about 56%. We summarized their visits and the non-Title I school visits for the last 10 years and also the recent 3 years. It turns out that the Title I schools did visit the zoo a little bit more than the non-Title ones. But this could be also caused by the income variables I mentioned earlier, since the non-Title I are more likely located in the high income areas. As I talked about in the beginning, one of the major objectives is to find the schools which are not visiting the zoo. And I mentioned earlier, the elementary schools contribute 80% of the total visits. So first of all, we only look at the elementary schools. There are 2,125 elementaries in LA County, and 586 of them never visit the zoo in 10 years. So definitely that's some schools the zoo can target. The rest, 1,539, has visited the zoo at least one time. But in these ones, there are 127. They used to visit the zoo quite a bit, means at least more than 3 times. Then they stopped visiting recently, so which means in recent 3 years they never came. These 127 plus the previous 586, which never came, can be a very good target for the zoo. So we then use the data analytic method called clustering, which we learned from Professor Zhang's course. We did this in a software called RapidMiner. Basically, what it does is it groups the similar schools together by certain attributes of the schools we specified. So in this case, we input 5 variables. The distance to the zoo kind of represents the geographic. The school rating represents the quality of the school. House income is a major demographic character. And also we put in the park need level score. Then we also include how many times the school has visited the zoo. These variables are not in the original data set. We joined them all together in GIS software, ArcGIS. So after we have all these, we run the clustering, and there are some process, but the outcome is we have 3 clusters, 0, 1, and 2 on the map. The blue, green, and red. The schools in the same cluster will have a lot of similarities in common. We generated a chart from the software. From this, we can kind of see each cluster's characteristics. As we see on the right, the cluster 0 seems to be more likely to visit the zoo as it has the highest times visit zoo value. So we look at the other aspects for that cluster. We know it's close to the zoo. It scores average on school rating, and it located in lower median income area. It has the highest park need level score. So these actually give us some standards that our client can look at to determine how likely the school will visit the zoo. Then in terms of the data, there are 1,759 schools in this cluster 0, and 550 of them never visit the zoo. Also, same as previous method, there are 108 schools they visit more than 3 times before but stopped visiting in the recent 3 years. So these can be another target for our client to look at. So the conclusion, it's also the recommendation for the clients if they want to increase the school visits by spending their marketing resources to the right school. What are the schools they should target? So we can either target the elementary schools. There are 713 of them, including 586 never came and 127 that they came before but not in recent 3 years. Or we can target the schools in the cluster 0. Again, there are 550 never came and 108 came before but not in recent 3 years. Total 658 schools in the cluster 0. That could be a very good target. There are actually 327 schools which appear in both lists, which makes them even more important or priority to target. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you everyone for listening.
All right. Up next, we'll have Anthony Lyons present on the 2020-2021 Data Science Federation Call for Projects. Anthony Lyons works for the City of Los Angeles as a data analyst in the citywide data science and predictive analytics team. He's a Los Angeles native and has a bachelor's in English creative writing with 2 master's degrees, one from DePaul University and one from Claremont Graduate University, where he currently is a PhD student studying the intersection between data science and education. Thanks again for being here today, Anthony. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for participating in this. I have a unique perspective. I have been on both sides of the story. I was a student on one of these projects in 2017, a project that was looking at social media utilization in the city. And now I'm an employee of the same department. So I'm very happy that I have this opportunity. Next slide, Lau. So the call for projects, essentially, what we do is we send out a call for proposals to city departments, asking them for their problems, their concerns that are can be resolved or understood using data. And in 2019, the response was 25 projects were submitted by these various departments. We have a fairly rigorous process that we go through. We have certain requirements that each project has to meet, and that is things like approval from senior management. Data is important. You can't do data science without data. So, you know, we check to make sure that all the requirements we ask for are in place. And in 2019, 17 of the submitted projects met that requirement. And then we go through a scoping process. We want to make sure that we understand what is being asked. We understand the problem, the questions that we're trying to answer, and that it is something that can be achieved. Often, departments may ask for applications or something a little beyond the scope of our capabilities. So we want to make sure that the requirements are reasonable and that there's something that can actually be met by the Data Science Federation. So in that regard, we matched 12 projects with universities, and 2 of the projects we continue to work on internally in the data science and predictive analytics team. And another thing that we emphasize is that the project management of has to be done by the city department that is submitting the proposal. In some cases, we will assist with the project management, but we really require that the department that is proposing the project is really actively involved in the project. Next slide, Lau. So the goals of and the needs of the university, you know, we have evolved. We revised our onboarding process recently. The new call for projects is going out in the next day or so, and you know what we're trying to target now is projects that will last about a year. Often we want to stick within the as far as universities are concerned, you know, we want to stick with the 2-semester approach. In some cases, the problem can be resolved in 1 semester. In some cases, longer. And as Jean mentioned earlier, some of the projects are long-term. And there's a shared pipeline that is involved. Next slide. So by that shared pipeline and scoping the project, we sit with each proposal and talk about what exactly is being asked, and what we ask when the proposal is submitted is these several items that are addressed. What is the description of the, you know, just a short description of the project, who will lead the project in the whatever department is submitting the proposal, We want to know if there are other departments that are involved, if this is a collaborative effort. An example of that is we have a current project that is a budget gamification project that is a collaboration between our controller's office and our Department of Housing. I'm forgetting what the acronym stands for, so forgive me, but there's a Department of Housing that is collaborating with the controller's office on a budget gamification project. So that's kind of what we mean by if there are any partnering departments. Who are the team members? What are the goals and deliverables? And of course, what data is going to be used? Another concern is timeline. If this is something that will really take a really large project that may be beyond the scope or capability of our department or reasonable for a school to take on, we would probably reject the project unless there is some additional process in place. An example of that is the funding that we got from like NASA and all would allow projects to be more elaborate and long-term. Next slide. So this slide just talks about the difference, given different examples of goals versus deliverables. And, in the goal side, maybe you just want to examine the data and understand hotspots, or in the case of the zoo project, what schools are participating as opposed to the schools that have never come to the zoo. And that the deliverable may be, as the example showed, a report of the findings explaining what information was found in the research. It may be something as involved as cleaning a data set so that the analysts that actually work for the department can do the analysis themselves. And there's a host of possibilities there. And when you submit your project idea, we will sit with you and talk about the scope and the goals and the deliverables to make sure that we're in sync and that this is something that we can feel good about the success of the project. Next slide. So the university onboarding, we need to make sure that the staff, the university staff and the professors are part of our list, and that we've done our due diligence as far as university outreach. University teams and project interests are a big concern of ours. We want to make sure that the students are participating in real world research, that this is efforts that they can add to their resume, that they can feel good that they are doing research and projects that are something that they can use in their professional lives and not just leave behind at school. We do have NDAs that we are non-disclosure agreements that we require. In some cases, there may be personal information that is involved. We try to avoid that wherever possible, but if there is there may be a case where personal information is involved, and we would really need to make sure that in our scoping and of the project that we address who has access to this data, and make sure that no one's private information is treated haphazardly. And again, there's always a possibility that there's a joint grant application can become part of this. Our Toyota Mobility Foundation project that Jean had mentioned earlier started off as a small project that kind of grew into something larger, and now is a part of a grant that the Toyota Mobility Foundation has given to the City of Los Angeles and Cal State LA. So we're very excited about that and how well it's going. Next slide. So deadlines are normally around early May. We will send out the call for projects and expect to receive something in the next day or so. It'll be an application that asks a number of questions, something that you can fill out right on the computer and submit back to us quite easily. Once the projects are submitted, May, June timeframe is when we normally are sitting with individual proposals and scoping and having scoping sessions and making sure that the project is something that can be achieved. Around July, mid-July, we want all the scoping process to be finalized, and making sure that we really have a clear understanding of what the project is, what are the deliverables, what are the goals, how can this project benefit the departments as well as the students that are involved. And at the end of July, we normally do a final review of the projects. Next slide. And then early August, we put together a booklet of all the various projects. As I said, in 2019, we had 25. So we put a booklet together that says what the project is and gives a description of it, the scope, the deliverables, who's involved and all. And we send this booklet to universities, asking them, are they interested in participating in helping these departments realize whatever those goals or deliverables are. And around end of August, the university response is due. So it's not quite a bidding war, but we do like to make sure that the university that we partner the project with is, that the team is able and has the tools, the resources, the desire and ambition to successfully achieve the goals of the project. We don't want to try to match a project that deals with GIS with a school that has no interest in GIS. So we try to match the projects with the school that is best suited to achieve the goals of the project. And by mid-September, we have sent out the confirmation that your school has been granted the privilege to work on this, and we match up the school team with, or the professor with the city team, and make sure that everyone is in communication and understand what are the goals, responsibilities, requirements of the project. And one thing also to keep in mind is that even though we have this timeline structure, there is some flexibility in that. This past spring, we started a number of projects as opposed to in fall. There were a few projects that had not completed all their requirements, and Later, they were able to meet all the requirements, so we did a second call that allowed a number of projects to be to launch in spring of this year. So, and we're very happy about that. In fact, this evening, I will participate in the presentation of the findings of 2 of those projects, and just had a email sent to me where the student, a grad student that was working on another third of those projects, has finished and wants to present the findings. So there is some flexibility in the project start. And this year also, because we are the Data Science Federation, and you know, this includes the data angels who are professionals that may be involved, as well as the SCAG team that involves other cities outside of Los Angeles. There may be some flexibility in start times and you know, times when the projects are due. Next slide. So these, as we've been saying, you know, we look for medium-sized projects. We don't want anything too large that might take several years to finish. Not in general, you know, if that happens to be the case, you know, case by case, we might consider it, but we seek medium-sized projects. We target around a year. We also are open for projects being part of a master's thesis or a senior colloquium. There's a possibility that a person can be an intern within a department. You can ask to have an intern work in your department and work on this project. A person could be a doctoral student working on their dissertation. So there's a lot of possibility there. If the project is very large, we would need additional support and possibly grant money to fund it. Next slide. So these are some of the questions that are often asked, and I won't go through each one of them individually. I'll just give you a second to skim through them. But you know, does it cost anything? The answer is no. The partnerships are the city departments submit these proposals. The universities agree to work on it, and you know, there's a win-win. The city department gets valuable research done for free. The universities get the students get real-world experience. They're able to write papers that they can publish regarding their research. University professors can also write papers. There's a number of them that are currently working on papers from projects that they've been involved in. These papers can be published and all, and we're okay with all of that. Again, it's a win-win. The professors can add to their CV, the students to their resume, and the departments get this research done for free. We do the matching. The ITA team and the SCAG team will do the matching of projects to the right team. Again, that's why we go through so much scoping effort to make sure that we understand what's being asked and what's necessary to realize the goals and deliverables of the project. Let's see. There is possibilities for grant funding. And this particular slide needs to be updated. We have approximately 40 projects to date. Next slide. And that's it for me. Again, I want to thank everyone for participating in this. Thank you, Lyle and SCAG team, for allowing us to be a part of this. And thank you, Jean, for being a visionary in this whole effort. And that's it for me. Everyone take care, stay safe and healthy.
Great, thank you, Anthony. We do have time for a few questions. I have received a few through the Zoom group chat. The first question we have is, can other cities in LA County be involved in the Data Science Federation, or is the DSF only limited to LA City?
This is Jane. I'll take that one. So we have opened it up to all other cities. So we'd love to have more cities participating with SCAG. I think we have the resources to help support the work that cities might be interested in scoping and helping to train either your IT folks or your data science folks or just your planning folks kind of how to work through these projects. So we definitely are opening this up to everybody.
Great. And on a similar basis, can other cities in LA County submit project proposals, or is the program limited to only City of LA?
Well, the call for proposals is updated this year to be for every city. So it'll ask questions like what city is or regional government is proposing this. So it's open to counties as well, or other regional governmental institutions. And SCAG will be our good partner on that.
Great. Great. If anybody else has any follow-up questions, feel free to type them in the Zoom group chat. While we wait for just a few more to come in, if we do, Anthony and Jean, do you have any final thoughts or comments?
I'd just like to encourage people to take a chance and try something here. I know a lot of folks have been working in data science or trying to stand up some data analytics groups. It's really tough at a city, especially now with the economic impact around COVID, to be able to do that. And this is a really amazing opportunity to be able to get that service for free. And then the other side of it is that a lot of students had planned on internships this summer and into next year that have evaporated because they can't go to a physical location. So there's sort of a two good opportunity here where the city gets a chance to start really reaching into data science and data-driven decisions. And we're also helping students in the LA area get that job opportunity skills that they need.
And I'll just add to that there is often departments have small staff. They don't have the resources to really do the analytics that are required to really understand. They may have the data. We've met with a number of departments that have tons of data, but really have no idea what to do with that data. And that's another one of the advantages of this program, is that you can work with people that do understand what to do with the data, and it does not impact your budget as would be the case if you had to hire data analysts or data scientists or someone, other staff members to really dig down. And another example of this is that you may have some staff, but not at the level that would really be necessary to take on these projects. So our program can work with the data analysts or data scientists that you might have in place already to strengthen the efforts that you have in mind.
And if you don't have data scientists, then we're really anxious to also work with people who just have great ideas. So don't feel put off by the fact that maybe you don't have folks who are in a data science classification, or they just don't have data science training, but it's really city planners, transportation officials, people working on housing and homelessness that have these really creative ideas that just need to have somebody come in and help them manage and put all the data together. And the Data Science Federation has proven its value in doing that for folks.
Great. Thank you guys for both making those final thoughts. We do have another question. What are some of the criterion for inclusion in a typical data sharing agreement?
So the agreement, we want to make sure that if there are issues with personal identifiable information, that it's addressed. You know, if the data has some information that should remain private and all that kind of stuff. So it may be the case that the data has to be scrubbed free of any personal information, things like that. So this agreement is really to protect citizens and departments that to make sure that we are not sharing data that can be negatively manipulated or applied in areas that we have no intentions of applying this data. So these are the main, that's the main concern that we have in these agreements, and we want to make sure that all parties involved understand what the requirements are and how this data might be utilized. I don't know, Jean, did you want to add anything to that?
I think you said it well.
Great. We have another question. How do we know that we are on your list to get the call for projects? For those that are attending this and that received our Toolbox training emails, we will be sending out a copy of this presentation, the recording of it, and then also we will be sending out the call for projects form that Anthony has prepared. So that will be included in that list that we're hoping to send out by this Thursday. So for those that were able to access Toolbox trainings, you'll definitely be on this list of getting that link. And then Anthony or Jean, is there a way that folks can join the mailing list for the Data Science Federation?
Sure. If they submit a project, it will capture their email address and automatically join them. You can also just express interest on the form. I think there's also a way to do that, and without submitting a project. But if not, we can add that to the piece.
Great.
And then there's the email, the datascience@lacity.org. You can send us an email, and we will make sure you're added to the list.
Great. We do have another question. It says, I think we may want to tap into larger data sets. Does SCAG have data that will be accessible by city departments? And I can take a stab at that. Yeah, SCAG has data on our open data portal online. And then we also have other data that some jurisdictions would need to place a data request form for. So if it's not public facing, you can put in a request for that. And these are some of the data sources that you can use when you are trying to do some of your projects. It looks like the follow-up to that one is, does the data have to come from the jurisdictions departments, or is it data elsewhere that they can use? So SCAG has available data. I don't know if Anthony or Jean wants to, do jurisdictions have to use their own data, or
no?
Okay.
We find that lots of times jurisdictions don't have the data. That's part of, that is sometimes part of the problem.
Yeah.
And so we sometimes have essentially a data search as part of the project, where we need to go out and find air quality data, or some other kind of data that the city itself might not be collecting, but is either out there on a regional area or data.gov or some other site. So we're happy to add that to the list.
Great, thank you. Haven't had any additional questions come in, but if folks do end up thinking of something, you can feel free to reach out to myself at janisike@scag.ca.gov, as well as Gene Holm at lacity.org, as well as data science at lacity.org. So folks can feel free to reach out to us that way. And then as we wrap things up, I just want to say thanks again to Gene Holm and Anthony Lyons for taking time away from their schedule to help us get the word out there about the call for projects and understanding of the Data Science Federation. So thank you both very, very much. And lastly, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we do have another Toolbox training scheduled for next Monday, May 18th at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It will be the same link that you utilize to register for this webinar, except just click on the California Healthy Places Index tool, and that will give you the information and the Zoom link for that. So Gene and Anthony, do you have anything else?
Just a great big thanks to you, Lyle, for hosting this, and to everybody who participated. And then just be safe out there, and thanks for following all the Safer at Home directives for your local communities.
Ditto. Thanks, everyone.
Yep. All right. Well, with that, thank you both for joining us, and thanks to everyone else for participating. And we look forward to seeing your submittals through the call for projects. So have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thanks.